Hi, hello, welcome back to the channel. So tonight, I say tonight, you're going to get this tomorrow, but it's evening now. I have a review for you, and it is for Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. Now, I know what you're thinking. This book was on my November TBR, but I started early, so I actually finished this book on October 31st. So Skyward is a 2018 young adult science fiction novel written by Brandon Sanderson, although it is not part of his Cosmere series of kind of connected universe of stories. It is kind of a universe unto itself, which Brandon calls the Cytoverse, and it kind of becomes clear, like as you read the book, that Cytonic and Cyto is like is kind of one of the big mysteries of the first book. That it's solved by the end, but it's one of the big mysteries of the first book, and it kind of shows you the it's clear that it's going to be a big deal in the universe. So, what's the book about? The book is about it's told in the first person, and it's set on it's set on like a fairly barren world in space, not Earth, where a group of humans live, a human society, and this society kind of believes that they might be the last living human society. They crash landed there, I think it's about 80 years ago. So, for example, the main character's grandmother remembers crash landing. They crash landed about 80 years ago, and then they started living on this planet, but in like caves and caverns below the surface, because there are some aliens that are attacking them constantly. Now, in one of the very, very early attacks, a lot of the leaders and the elders and a lot of their stored data about history and technology and stuff is all destroyed. So we're living with, they kind of live in this new society where they don't have any knowledge of what's previously gone, what human society was like beforehand, and what really led them to crashing on this planet. So we follow a main character called Spencer. She is the daughter of a very, very well-known, kind of infamous coward. So he was a fighter pilot, and the fighter pilots are like the heroes of their civilization, and they protect the planet from attack by the aliens, which are called the Krell, and he is the only known coward to kind of fly away and try and escape with his life, and leave his kind of other flight mates to die, and they end up having to shoot him down. So Spencer has had to live her whole life with that kind of shadow over her, and so she's having to deal with this kind of black mark on her family, and there's actually lots of restrictions because they're that are placed on them because they're the family of a traitor. Like, for example, none of them can get jobs. So there's kind of a really interesting story wrinkle there where like your job basically is like almost like your place in society. So you're like, oh, I am an engineer, and engineers get this kind of level of privileges and things like that. Their whole society and stuff is really interesting, and it feels like a bit of a comment from Sanderson on modern society. Just a little. I don't think he's the kind of writer who wants to make too much of a political commentary, but there is definitely something going on there. So Spencer is Spencer wants to kind of redeem her family name, and she wants to become a pilot. And so she's able to get into flight school by means which I won't spoil for you because it's pretty fun. And when she's in flight school, the book kind of moves from being like kind of, I mean, it is a YA sci-fi story the whole way through, but it moves into almost like Top Gun territory. It's really fun. As someone who loves Top Gun, especially the sequel Top Gun Maverick, which I think is one of the best movies I've seen in years. The kind of like flight school aspect of it is genuinely really good, and it reminds me almost of some kind of shonen anime like My Hero Academia, where they're having to learn how to do specific things and to overcome their weaknesses, to working together as a team. The characters which Spencer is being both taught by and learning with are really, really good. And then there's one other wrinkle to this story, is that there's kind of is that Spencer comes across the wreckage of a ship with an unfamiliar design, and she's and it kind of, that story kind of spirals from there, and it that kind of, for the majority of the book, is kind of like the B plot, but it intermingles with the A plot, and it's really good. So as I said, I've talked about the basics that you get off the back of the book here, but this is a no spoiler review, so the book raises a load of really interesting mysteries throughout the book. So you kind of have what happened to Spencer's dad. You have kind of, why are they on this planet? What's going on with the planet? Why is it so weird? And then like, what's going on with the aliens? So I thought all of that was really interesting. And you get answers to pretty much all the major mysteries in this book, which I really like. And even though Sanderson does give you the answers to those mysteries, he also kind of leaves some interesting stuff hanging for the sequel books. I have absolutely no idea. Well, I say absolutely no idea. I have an idea as to where they might go with a sequel book, but I'd definitely be interested to see where Sanderson's going to take it. I would imagine that in book 2 we're going to get because book 1 is a lot of setup and then some really, really good storytelling and great set pieces. So I'd imagine with Starsight we're probably going to get more of the direction for the rest of the series, if that makes sense. So I really enjoyed this one. I'll spoil the score, not spoiling the book, but I'll spoil the score and tell you that I was really, really wavering between a 4 and a 5 for this one. It's a very, very solid 4-star. Absolutely no qualms about it being below 4. And I couldn't decide whether I wanted it to be a 5 or not, because I really had no complaints at all. Pacing was great, dialogue was great, characters were great, prose was good, but it didn't blow me away in the way that I feel like a 5 needs to. And I've said this many times about books, that I feel like there's kind of like a, you know how that judge said that he couldn't describe what pornography is, but he knew it when he saw it. And I feel like when I read a 5-star book, I know I've read a 5-star book. And maybe I'm just comparing that to the Ryan Cahill Bound and the Broken books that I read earlier this year, that are some of the best books I've read in forever. But I definitely feel like this one didn't give me that kind of kick in the teeth of a 5-star book. I did worry up front because it's YA, it's specifically YA, and I did worry because the description and the kind of early time you spend with Spencer, I was like, I'm not 100% certain I like this character. She seemed initially to be quite simple and one dimensional, and her personality was quite abrasive. But you very quickly, because the entire book is from her point of view, you very quickly get on her side, as it were, and also you realise that that abrasive personality is compensating for the low self-confidence she has due to her place in society and all this sort of stuff. And this all comes up really early on, so it kind of endeared me quickly to the character. There is, it's YA, so there is a romance subplot. It's extremely light touch, and while I have thought previously that Sanderson is not great at romance, I do think that because of how light a touch it is, this one really works. So if you're the kind of person who's like, oh, I don't like YA, or I don't like romances, this book doesn't really feel YA to me, aside from obviously the romance subplot, which is not in every sci-fi book you read. But if you've read, for example, the first Mistborn book, this is just kind of a slightly breezier, less complex take, I would say, almost. Spencer reminds me a little of Vin in certain ways, and the Sanderson writes her really, really well, and he writes a lot of the crew members really well as well. The other crew members and the teacher Cobb, who I liked a lot. I think he was really fun. So yeah, I think this one, I think is a pretty unequivocal recommendation. The only thing that I could see why people might not enjoy it is I know some people don't like first-person narratives. So this book is told in the first person. It's a single perspective. It's all from Spencer's point of view. There are interludes in the book that are from the point of view of another character, but we're talking like 3. It's not extensive. So I would definitely recommend this one, and I am really excited. And as soon as I finish recording this, going to start Starsight. I've also read the novelette, short story, I'm not sure how you describe it, Defending Elysium, which Sanderson wrote in 2009, and ended up being the inspiration for a lot of the cytonic stuff in Skyward, although that's very much a very, very different story, and it's set hundreds of years before, and almost reminds me of The Fall by Ryan Cahill. Although I read The Fall second in The Bound and the Broken. You can read it first, but Defending Elysium you definitely don't want to read first, because it will spoil a lot of the reveals by discussing the cytonic stuff pretty matter-of-factly, which means that you kind of will know what's going on when Spencer is learning about them, which kind of feels backwards to me. Like, you want to learn about this stuff as Spencer learns about it. I think that would work better, to be honest. So yeah, next up is Starsight. I got a recommendation for a reading order from one of my viewers, and I actually didn't write down their name, which is terrible. Let me just grab that now. So I got the recommendation was from Tatooine Sandworm, who, thanks again for giving me the recommendation and helping me decide the order in the comments of the previous video, the TBR video. So yeah, I'll be reading Starsight next, and then there's 2 of the novellas, and then there's Cytonic, and then there's a final 3rd novella, and then so if I can read all of those, then I'll be able to read Defiant on the 21st of the month. And now you might be seeing why I started Skyward early. So I'm really looking forward to reading more in this series. I think that Brandon has created a really, really cool sci-fi world that isn't like everything else that you've seen. It's very unique. It's got a lot of elements of kind of, I mean, this first book has elements of Top Gun, of like, I think Brandon even said it's kind of a cross between Top Gun and How to Train Your Dragon. But it's also got kind of a big dystopian bend. It's kind of like space dystopia. It's a really interesting story and an interesting world, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how that world develops and changes based on the things that we learn at the end of the book. So, yeah, I think you can pretty much tell that I really like this book. But if you've read Skyward, what did you think about it? So why don't you pop down in the comments and let me know your thoughts on the book, whether I should be excited for the next one or not. I've heard that the first book is the best, and it does not. It kind of has a decline from here on out. But as long as, I think as long as the world and the universe are interesting, I'll still be interested. Again, so yeah, drop a comment below and let me know what you thought of Skyward. If you liked this video, then please give it a like, because that tells YouTube that I'm doing well at this whole video making thing. If you didn't like the video, and you've got some constructive criticism, you've got something that I missed in the review, you think that I should discuss, then pop it in the comments below, and we can have a chat about it there. I'm always grateful for any sort of constructive criticism that you may have. And finally, if you'd like to recommend to somebody that they read Skyward, then share this video with them, because hopefully the more people we can get involved in our little community, the better. B, it will tell YouTube that you think my video is good enough to share. So that's good for me. If you want to get your own copy of Skyward, I will pop a affiliate link in the description box below, and there'll also be affiliate links for all of the Skyward books, just so that if you want to buy ahead, you certainly can do. And cross your fingers that my copy of Skyward Flight is going to come into the library soon, because I've reserved it, but I have absolutely no idea when it'll arrive. So thanks again for watching, and I will speak to you tomorrow with the weekly wrap-up for the first week, I think it's technically the first week in November, but there's quite a few days of October there. So yeah, first weekly wrap-up of November. See you tomorrow. Bye.